welcome. And today I'm going to talk to you something really remarkable happened today, and it's been happening quite a few times, even though I don't really like doing it. But it just made me think, and I thought I'd share it with you, how it feels like to be completely indifferent to foods, especially things like cakes, biscuits and all that. But before I go into sharing with you what happened today, and if you haven't seen me before, I am Mel. I am an eating mindset coach, and I help people break their self-destructive eating habits so that they can stop dieting for good, at the same time return back to their natural self. Today I'm going to talk to you about what happened today. So basically, I hope my other half doesn't hear this, because he is a proper eco and he doesn't really like to waste anything. But I baked a huge, it's a huge tray. I think it's like about a 9-10 inch square tray cookie brownie. It was like a chocolate brownie with chocolate chips, and I'd left it in the fridge, and we'd had literally only maybe a quarter of it, and this was about 3 weeks ago. And I was having a clear out today, like going through the fridge to see what to throw out or things, and I saw this tin. I thought, what is that? And it was the chocolate chip brownie. I'd completely forgot about it, and because my other half, he doesn't tend to look through the fridge or the cupboards, he literally relies on what I just hand him, what's on the plate to him. He obviously hadn't looked at it, so we'd left this kind of 9-inch chocolate chip brownie in the fridge, and it's all gone a bit dry and white and probably moldy, and it was so hard. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to throw that away. But the remarkable thing is that I forgot about that chocolate brownie in the fridge. And if you've been obsessed with food like I have done in the past, that would never have happened in a million years, because when I was dieting, I knew exactly what was in my cupboards, what was in my fridge and freezer. I could name you, like, from the top of my head, everything that's in my cupboards, because I was so obsessed with food. And that's what I wanted to share quickly, is because when you're indifferent to food, and the only way you're going to be like that is if you stop dieting, because dieting makes you obsess over foods. So I just wanted to run through what I was like when I was dieting. When I was on the diet, I was so strict on whatever diet I was on. I'd literally tried every single diet that you could think of. And because of all these diets, they had different rules. But at the end of the day, even if they seemed like versatile, and I think I'm not up to date with diets now because I don't diet, but I know back in the day, and I'm sure it hasn't changed, you still have to stick to a rule. It's either you have so many calories in the day, or you have to have so many portions of protein and carbohydrates, and you have to literally measure everything. But the problem with having all these macro measuring and trying to make sure you've got enough nutrients for breakfast and lunch and having the right snack for dinner, you're constantly obsessed over food. And that is the problem with diets, is because you never really give yourself a break from thinking. Even if, when it's kind of have this idea of generally healthy eating diets, which on paper, theoretically and technically, it sounds good, but it's just so regimented that you do end up being obsessed over it. Another thing with dieting was I was constantly hungry. I was starving. I have a really, really big appetite. And I remember my mum was saying to me when I was younger, like, God, Mel, you can really put it away, can't you? So that was another thing. It was like none of the diets ever made me feel satisfied with what I ate. And then I was always clock watching as well. I was like thinking, right, I've had my breakfast now. When it's like 11 o'clock siege, when am I allowed to have my snack? And then once I had my snack, it's like, when is it my lunch? I would constantly be thinking about food. And that is all the diets. You just have food in your mind all the time. Plus, another thing that happened to me while I was dieting is that I lost touch of eating naturally, like my hunger pains. I was never really like what I am now, and I didn't know for a long time what it felt like to be normal hungry. I was either absolutely famished, like really starving, or I was stuffed. I really didn't have that middle ground because of the fact that I was always starving, and because whenever I finally ate, I just stuffed my face, I'd always feel really, really uncomfortably full. Or when I was like really restricting myself for a while, I did feel starving for a long time. So that is the problem with diets, because you lose all your natural senses as well. Plus also when they put like things like desserts and things that in categories, everything had to be in categories as well. It's such hard work. I ended up feeling like eating was like almost like having a full-time job. You had to keep planning, what am I going to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner. I know we have to plan that every day, but it was just like trying to follow these rules all the time. Whatever diet you're on, they've always got this kind of macro, and you end up getting your calculator out, making sure you're not going over. And then also with these diets, you also have these unrealistic expectations, like because you're on a diet, you're like, oh, I should lose weight literally the first week that I'm on a diet. So as soon as you're on this diet, you're expecting to lose so many pounds. And then when you don't lose it, it's so disheartening, because you've worked so hard sticking to whatever rules that they've allowed you to have, and you've like been so good organising your breakfast, your lunch and dinner all week, and you get really excited. You go on those scales, you're like, oh, I must have lost about 4 pounds, and you get on there and you're like, only lost 1 pound. Even worse, you'd put on a pound, you're like, oh my God. And that constant mind torture, it really, really is torture when you are on the diet. And also I felt guilty, even if like the diet said that you could have a chocolate biscuit, as a real treat, or go out and you could have like part of your allocation, what is it, like cheat day Fridays or something, I don't know, a cheat day. I would really feel like, so one contrast would be cheat day. Yeah, I'll pig out, it's my cheat day. I could do what I want. It's so basically you've been good all week, and then you've got your cheat day and you're like stuffing your face. It's just, what is it that you're learning from that kind of whatever it is? It's like, it really doesn't make sense to have 6 days of the week and then suddenly you're pigging out. It's like, why is that telling your mind? You're really, really screwing up with your mind. And then another thing as well, when you are allocated, I know like back in the day in Weight Watchers, you were allocated like so many points. You can use points for a naughty treat. So what I would do is I'd just use up all my points eating cake and biscuits, and then I'd starve for the rest of the day because obviously I've eaten all my points and everything, you know, with the cakes, and I didn't have anything left for proper food. Another thing that I would do as well is like I would have like the crap food like cakes and biscuits and that, and then I'd feel guilty, the guilt around eating these foods. Oh my god, it was just so tiring being on diets. So anyway, because of my obsession of diets, so literally for 22 years, ever since I was a teenager, I think I mentioned it on one of my videos, but it was like when you're like, I think about 14, you start being aware of yourself as not being a girl anymore, you're a woman, and you're starting to try to impress boys. That's when I started thinking about food, and one thing led to another, and I ended up being on back-to-back diets to the point that I almost literally killed myself, because I went from one extreme to dieting and then anorexic. I just stopped eating because I just couldn't cope with all the dieting up and down, up and down. And then because there was a part of me just thought, right, you know, I'm gonna end up dead here. So I started trying to eat, and that's when I ended up being bulimic, which is even, you know, it was just awful, because I spent half the time hiding from everyone. And it was even worse because I used to hate having to eat with people, because I would be counting the minutes until meal times was over. I'd literally be glazed over, where I would just be hating every moment of that time, trying to pretend to eat in front of people. And then once that meal was over, I'd end up going to the shop, buying loads of chocolates and sweets and Pringles and cakes and everything, and just pigging out on there, and then like doing awful things, like literally puking this stuff out in awful places, in my bedroom, in the restaurants. It was just awful. This had all started from one diet, and I truly believe that diets are just so dangerous. I think it should be illegal to promote diets, because it's just so wrong. Anyway, that is my story. So like what I was saying, why diets are just so bad. But if you can try to stop dieting for one, and then try to do some of the mind hacks that I've shared so far, honestly, it doesn't mean that you'll end up like the size of an elephant. It means that you'll give yourself a chance to let your body and your mind go back to normal, because once it starts going back to normal, you'll find the comfortable natural size that you're supposed to be. And when you're indifferent to food, it's like I was just packing up some, like they have goûter, which is snack time after school in France here, when I pick up my daughter, and everyone has their cakes and things like that. So I just pack a couple of chocolate biscuits for my daughter, and I just noticed I was completely numb to these chocolate biscuits. It really didn't like excite me at all. And the fact is, I'd only literally just thrown, it must have been a kilo of like maybe a 10-inch chocolate brownie in the bin just about a few hours before, because I'd forgotten about that in the fridge, you know, for 3 weeks, and it started going moldy. It just shows how I'm just so not bothered about it. I mean, could you imagine just not being bothered about eating cakes or biscuits or dessert? How easier it is to become in that zone rather than being in this dieting, beat myself up, feeling guilty, trying to eat a certain way, trying to not eat too much, trying to eat, I don't know, these crazy diets. So anyway, I just wanted to share that moment that I had today. And if you want to know a little bit more of what I'm doing, it really does help, because it kind of skips the hardship of you trying to do it by willpower, and I spoke a lot about that yesterday. I'm trying to get to the subconscious mind, where 90% of our habits are driven by the subconscious mind. And when I put people into hypnosis, I'm able to give positive beliefs in there to replace all those negative beliefs before, and not negative, kind of wrong beliefs like cake makes you feel good. So instead, that I would change those messages in your subconscious mind instead, so you can be free from dieting for good, just like me. Okay, I hope you found some golden nuggets in that video as well. And if you want to know anything about any mind hacks or things to make eating healthier easier, because I've got loads of tricks up my sleeve on how to kind of eat healthy but without even making any effort, because I'm a busy mum as well. I don't have the time to measure. I hate diets, as you know, but also I do know that eating healthy is the best way, but you can still eat your cake and be healthy at the same time. So if you have any questions, let me know, and then I'll do a video. And I hope everyone will have a lovely evening. Bye.